welcome to another episode of LSM's Internationals podcast. My name is Darren Seigenberg. I am the lead coach, wellbeing consultant for LSM International and LSM Coach. I have a very, very special guest today, and it's Mr. Bernie Hollywood. Hi, Bernie. How are you doing?
Yeah, hello, Darren. Yeah, very well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today, mate. Really appreciate it. For anybody who doesn't know you,
Yeah,
I met you, what was it, February, when we saw the It's Mental Live in
yeah,
Bolton in the UK.
yeah,
Bernie, your CV, mate, I mean, as a careers coach, a CV should only be at least 1 or 2 pages. I think you'd write a novel for your CV, if I could put it that way. I thought the number of jobs I've had was bad enough, but the stuff you've done is incredible, mate. Author, speaker, fundraiser, sportsman, creator, musician.
yeah.
Have I missed anything?
No, 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 I don't think you have, Darren. Actually, no, I think that's everything. To be fair, yeah,
And you, would I be able to say you're quite renowned for what you do, and not just in your charity work, but your solo rowing across the Atlantic, 3.5, nearly 4,000 miles on your own, is
uh-huh.
a feat in itself.
Yeah.
And my hat was like,
Thank
and
you.
I asked you before,
Yeah.
have you got a knighthood?
No, I haven't got a knighthood now.
Why the hell not?
Well, there is a simple answer to that. You have to get somebody to nominate you, and I don't think anybody's done that yet. So, um, you know, honors are fantastic, and I appreciate the accolades and whatever. But anyone that will tell you that works in the areas that we work in, you don't do it for that.
No.
You do it to make a difference. Um, having gongs and so on and so forth does help you actually connect with people better. But I'll tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing in the world of politics, and maybe a little bit later on in our talk. So yeah, if there's anybody out there that thinks I'm worthy of something, you just have to nominate through the government website.
Well, my first question would be, if we imagine the football chant, "Who are you?"
Yes.
So, I'm gonna have that stuck in your head all day now. Um,
Yeah.
but who is Bernie Hollywood?
Okay. That's a great question to start with, Darren. Well, I'm a dad, first and foremost. I'm a father. And secondly, what I would say is that I'm some sort of well, people call me a charity guru. Um, I've been working in the third sector for 40 years. I've been passionate about young people ever since the passing of my late mother and my late father 43 years ago. They've given me everything within my DNA to actually be good and to give. And really, from that particular day forward, from when my parents passed away within 6 months of one another, I've never stopped giving from that particular day. So I give of myself to anybody that really wants any help, assistance, wisdom, direction, and steer with any charitable, any good willing participation of what you want to achieve in your life. I'm here to actually help you actually get to where you need to be. I don't do it for any reward. I've never taken a penny of the last 40 years in any of the consultation, any of the mentoring, any of the charitable work that I've done. I've done it for nothing, because my greatest reward is basically what I see from my talks and my actions and my work that I do. When I see the actual rewards of those people flourishing, my charities flourishing, and the work that they do and the impact it has on the communities and the children, no one can put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
So I've always been taught from a very early age to give is to receive. And I've always lived by that mantra from that very day. I give everything away.
Mm.
When I worked in the corporate sense, in the corporate sector, very successfully for 40 years, I gave an awful lot of my salary away to other causes because A, I was in a position to do that, and B, I was happy to do that, and my family were happy for me to do that as well.
Yeah, no, that's pretty. I mean, obviously, with the whole point about the LSM International podcast is about
Yeah,
Kenya. in
Yes.
particular and working
Yes.
in Africa. I want to touch on that in a bit. What I
Okay.
first want to get through is some of the stuff that you do overall.
Yeah.
You're very much for about the people, and in particular young people. Um, when we first met, and I want to apologize online here,
Okay.
because when you came on stage on the It's Mental Live event and you were being introduced, and the interviewer said, was talking to you, and you actually said, "I'm not in a very good place today,"
No.
and that in itself needed an applause.
Oh,
I
okay.
actually wanted to ask you, and
No.
say to you, it was because somebody was actually sat in front of me. I didn't want to shout down his
Yeah.
ear, to be quite
Yeah.
honest with you. But I want to apologize because I think it needed somebody to say, "Well done,"
Well,
you know,
thank you.
for you to
Thank you.
say that. And
Thank
it's bad enough to say to say like a partner or a friend,
Yeah. Yeah.
but say it to an audience.
Yes.
It says
Yeah.
a lot, doesn't it? With being
Well,
men, it
yeah.
doesn't. It's not the norm, is it?
No, it is. It's not the norm, Darren. No, it's not. But I think with like for example, it's Mental Life and what that great organization is doing is actually bringing mental health into an open forum whereby people can feel comfortable talking about it. I
Yeah,
think we had the great Carlisles there that evening as well. And they spoke openly about their relationship with their mental health, which was again phenomenal to hear. And then we heard other great speakers come on board and talk about it. So I think now people are more comfortable now talking about what's inside here than ever before because we all have physical health and we all know how important that is to our lives. But we equally on the same page we have our mental health, and that also is equally important. And so both are on parallels and both need equals amount of attention to actually ensure that you feel okay.
yeah,
And also it's not a weakness to say that you don't feel okay today.
yeah,
Wrong with that. You're just telling people that you're not on your A game and you don't feel that good. So it really is. I mean, I spoke to my partner yesterday and said, I just don't feel right for some reason. I just don't feel right today. And I do apologize. So if I'm a bit quiet, Sharon, it's because I just really not feeling where I should be.
yeah,
So I was basically sort of, in one of those sort of loopy downs. Um, I said, but with your love and care and just being there for me and having my great dog with me as well, Murphy, I'll come back again. I'll bounce back again. And sport plays a big part of my life, as you know. And so, when I go out and exercise or go out and walk with the dog and I go out into the open fields here in North Wales, you get that spiritual feeling about being at one,
mm,
and it just sort of gives you a balance back. And also, when you do look at what's happening within the world today, and you look at all of the tragedy that people have to cope with, when I reflect upon my issues, they then start to fade into insignificance.
mm,
Um, and I think to myself, well, really, what am I feeling sorry for? Am I feeling sorry about that? Why? And then it just then starts to bring me back into a more positive state of mind.
yeah.
So, but yeah, we all have ups and downs in life. And my dear old mum, bless her, she should have been a sage because she was so full of wisdom. She's always said to me, "Love, you have to have your downs to have your ups. You can't be up here all the time. It is impossible to be on an all-time high unless you're taking some substance that basically gets you there, and then you've got to come down after it." Um, and I see a lot of them in court as well when I sit as a judge. Um, so in the situation is that it's when you're in those low moments, it's basically having the support system and knowing that you're having the coping mechanisms to actually deal with that. And that's what amazing agencies in this country do so brilliantly well.
Mm.
From Papyrus, Mind, Samaritans. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. There's so many amazing agencies. Hub of Hope, Chasing the Stigma. I mean, it's just incredible the resource that's there to help people now when they have a mental health issue. And again, it's just not. I don't feel it's an issue to talk about it anymore. Uh,
Where do you see the difference with like with the mental health in the West as is in Kenya and Africa?
oh my gosh. Oh, they're miles apart, really, Darren. We are a developed nation here in the United Kingdom, and Kenya, um, and I've been there for 15 years now, and I've seen many changes in that time. But you know, uh, personal health and mental health are really only for the exclusive few. Um, there's a huge amount of poverty within that particular nation. And obviously, when you are poor, and I mean genuinely poor, and you can't afford even to go to a doctor or a dentist, what hope have you got with your mental health?
Yeah.
I mean, you're right down on the back of the back burner. We're struggling with mental health resources in the United Kingdom with regards to psychiatrists and CAMS for our children. There's an average waiting list of 2 to 4 years to have a child in our country assessed. So when you go to Kenya, it's like practically impossible to get in front of a psychiatrist. So those amazing people who are some of the most resourceful people on the planet, because I deal with specifically the Maasai, um, they just basically have to grim and bear it. And when you hear of suicide in Kenya, you don't really know what the reasons are behind that because you don't know whether they're mentally ill or not because there's no resource to actually measure that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the number of suicides in Kenya because it's not properly measured
Mm.
because of the health service. And it's only great charities from all around the world that goes to these developing nations that gives these people a support system and a limited amount of healthcare that they can actually provide them. I can talk about what we do within our charities a little bit later, but yeah, miles apart, Darren. And it's a bit scary to be frank. Somebody once said to me just recently, well, what are you worried about developing parts of Africa for when we actually haven't got our act together here in the United Kingdom with regards to looking after the health and well-being of our people? And I said, well, I understand you actually saying that, and I can see where you're coming from. Our NHS, and we have an amazing group of people. Now, I actually was at A&E on Saturday, with an issue that I had with my mouth. And those people are working so hard. I was in A&E for 5 hours, and to see the triage nurses and the doctors and the nurses and the carers and the porters and the security people working really crazy, and it was just incredible what they're doing. But there's only a limited amount of what you can do with the resource that you've got. So what my answer to that individual was, look, at least we've got some resource here and we can be seen. How would you feel if you were a mother or father whereby you had your child and your child could never be seen by a health professional? Don't you feel that young person, that young child deserves an opportunity to go and see a healthcare professional? And they said yes. And I said, that's what charities do. They're not the solution. They actually help get those people the actual support and the care they need when needed, but they're not there all the time. But the great news about the African nations is I always say that Africa is rising. In 15 years of actually traveling back and forwards to many African nations, I've seen growth unsurpassed really with regards to infrastructure, really opportunities. There's a Silicon Valley in Kenya. I don't know whether you're aware of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and it just started with one building in the middle of nowhere. It's starting to grow slowly, but Savannah Valley, as it's called, is actually now starting to grow, and there's huge amounts of excitement, particularly in the university structure around Kenya, which I'm very involved with as well. I'm involved with Moi University. The future is bright. They're producing academics now. People are getting educated now more than ever before, and education is the solution out of poverty. As my mother taught me, said, listen, the only way that you're going to get a decent job is by having a decent education. She was absolutely right.
Yeah.
You have to have a foundation of an education to get a decent job and to earn income. And that's what my charity and other amazing charities do in Kenya to actually give those children the opportunity to get an education and then they can decide what they want to do. And I've got some great stories that I could tell you about some of our pupils that have gone on to do brilliant things.
Yeah.
Now, over 15 years, we've educated a lot of kids who have now actually gone into mainstream jobs that are now making a difference in their own nation.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, we had with LSM, and we do the same. We work, I've got to get this right. Mukuru, Kawa, Njenga areas, and Kawangari. I
Yeah,
hope I've said that correctly. Please forgive me if I haven't. We have links with the Fleischer Foundation. You know, Les himself, the CEO of LSM International, he sponsors around 10 kids at the moment, in
wow.
education.
Yeah,
We've worked in different areas. We work with NGOs and all different charities,
yeah,
and to boost that education. And you're absolutely right. So it's especially with mental health, it's starting at the beginning, isn't it? Starting with the younger people to be then when they're moving forward,
yeah.
the more of a mindset and a better mindset and better be able to, I suppose, ride the challenges as you're getting older as well, isn't it? Because it's always that. Now, I've actually got at the side of me, and very gladly that you got you to sign these. I've got your books,
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you.
So and you've Bertie and the Boaty and the
Yes.
Boat of Hope. Now,
Yeah.
if I've got it right, you've got your Bertie Boaty book and the book, the book of the Boat of Hope. Get that right.
Yeah.
Is a campaign in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. The campaign is really straightforward. It was a campaign effectively to actually help open up a conversation with young people about how they feel inside their heads and their hearts through adventure and through creativity. That's effectively the campaign in a nutshell. So that's what we've done. In 4 years, we've done that and we've smashed it.
Brilliant. And it's so where's the tie with that with the other organization, Future Men?
Right, you're outside of what I do personally is that I've been running charities and advising charities for the last 40 years. So I sit as the chair of Future Men, which is an organization that helps young men, usually in year 7 and year 8, just going into the high school area of their lives. We basically give young boys an opportunity to actually realign their thought processes about what being a man in the 21st century actually is all about. Um, and we get them to challenge the actual ideas that they have at the moment. And our award-winning boys development program actually does transform them and gets them to think differently about who they actually are and what contribution they make to society and what impact their actions have on others and themselves as well. And it's a remarkable program, and it's a program that we're looking to actually hopefully replicate around the United Kingdom, because if we can get to young men at that age, you have to get to young men at their formative years, because that's really when they start forming a pattern of how they actually behave towards their and when they get into adulthood. So if you can get them in their adolescence and we can actually give them some redirection and steer and some hope that if you actually behave and act this way, these are the actual rewards that you're going to receive. It really, really is. I say that Future Men is the hidden secret of our country. We should have our boys development program in every high school in the United Kingdom. Um, and if we had the funding from central government and other parties, we'd be able to do that very, very quickly. We'd be able to scale it up very, very quickly. And we're in the process of actually doing that in the organization at the moment, which I'm delighted to say. So yeah, Future Men is something completely different than what I've done with the mental health things. I actually went into the Boat of Hope campaign purely because my son Lewis that has suffered with his mental health over the last 15, 20 years now, whereby as a parent, I felt useless about actually helping him because I wasn't in a position to do so. Because A, I'm not a psychologist. B, I didn't really understand why he was feeling that way. Thirdly, I was being very selfish because I thought it was my behavior that and I'd done something to actually make him behave this particular way? What have I done wrong, selfishly? And thinking that, could I have done anything better as an individual to ensure that I could have actually cared for my child a lot better? Because when your child has a mental health issue, it's extremely difficult from a parent, mum, dad, carer, guardian, to actually do anything. You just sit back and you see your son, your daughter wilt away and not be the person that they used to be. And it's absolutely soul destroying, not only for the individual, but for the actual people collectively around that individual. So the whole family is affected. The mood is completely affected. The way that the family operates is affected by having somebody within in your family unit having a mental health issue, a serious mental health issue. So I thought long and hard about this as I saw this progression, and I thought, well, the only way to actually counter this or actually find out what's going on in Lewis's head is to actually get educated about it. So I went and took some mental health courses to actually understand when somebody gets depressed, what actually happens inside here and why, just to give me a greater understanding of what the issues that Lewis was actually having when he was having his actual depressions, and that enlightened me. And it's there is no solution to having mental health issues from the point of view. Yes, you can have medication, which actually softens the blow. It doesn't make it better. The only way in which you can actually come out of it, and Lewis continues to say this to me on a regular basis, is the only person that can fix this, Dad, is me. He always used to say to me that you can't fix it for me. I've got to find a way to actually find a solution. And he's absolutely right. But the only way that you can do that is actually with the support of others, because that's what I said to him. I said, well, let me counter that, Lou. I said, because really you need direction and help to get you to where you need to be so you can find those solutions yourself. And he said, Dad, you're right. He said, then the best way of doing that is actually telling me how you feel.
Yeah.
Because I used to ask him on a regular basis, tell me how you feel, tell me how I can help you. And it was so difficult to have that conversation. Oh, you don't know how I feel, Dad. You don't really know what's happening in here with the demons in my head and the people who are talking to me in here and telling me what to do and how I behave and how I act. But if I'd had that conversation much earlier on in his formative years, and basically depression actually starts to manifest itself in people from the age of five, which I didn't know at the time, because of course now I'm educated and understand the mental health scene more than ever. And the way that you actually counter that is by actually getting into the world of the individual, by actually asking them those questions. And storytelling is an amazing way to do that. And that's why we actually wrote the book Bernie and Boaty, and we did the comic The Boat of Hope, because we wanted to engage with young people through a story to get them to come out and tell us how they feel about their ups and their downs.
Yeah.
And likewise with the comic as well, we use the comic characters of Bernie Hollywood rowing across the Atlantic Ocean in an adventure to actually then started to actually open those conversations with 11 to 18-year-olds in a more animated way, but in a more personal way as well. So when we were having the conversation 5 years ago, Lou said, well, a great way of actually engaging with the young person, Dad, is actually by talking to them and asking them how they feel. And you can do that through storytelling, creativity, and adventure. Because he knew by then I'd adventured around the world, and he was actually blown away by the story I told him about, what I've done, where I've been, what happened, and so on and so forth. He said, why don't we actually put a campaign together that really sort of embraces all of that for 5 to 11-year-olds and 11 to 18-year-olds, and we can do it through an adventure. He said, you're always looking for the next adventure to do. Think about it. So I did. And I've always wanted to row the Atlantic because my dad went to sea, and I fell in love with sea when I was a teenager, when my dad used to take me on his boats and whatever in Liverpool. And I started rowing 5 years ago. So I thought, wow, yeah, maybe the sport of rowing and possibly doing a challenge across an ocean and the solitude and the loneliness of that, then bring that to life in the story of the Boat of Hope, and the rest is history.
It is an incredible story in itself, just what you've done, as well as what's in the book. Like you say, and it's a key point is where you say there is how many people are affected. You
Yeah.
know, the studies have shown on average, 85 people are affected by one suicide, you know, and the likelihood of a group, like a group of friends, if somebody commits suicide, somebody in that group will also do the same. So, you know, and that's expanding on that. So it's about getting it in as early as possible. And like you say, having that courage, I don't want to use the word courage because it can, it's to me, to some extent, it's not the right word, but having the capacity to be able to say, I've got a problem
Yes.
is key. And then,
Yes.
I mean, I have my other podcast, Exploring You, um, and we actually talk about the different elements. So when somebody says, I've got, you know, if you've got a problem, you need some help,
Yeah.
and they'll go, well, where do I go? What do I do? You know, for me, neuro linguistic programming, NLP, was for me a big change for me, not just in learning on it, but personally as well. But when I looked into it, because I wanted people to communicate better and
Uh-huh.
have that expression of speech as well, and be able to say, right, I've got a problem. How can you help me deal with it, or how can I deal with it? So
Absolutely.
when I looked at psychology, sociology, transactional analysis, cognitive behavioral therapy, all that stuff
Mhm.
didn't quite resonate as much as NLP did.
Yeah.
So it is about finding something that would work. We
Yes.
all know what
Absolutely.
we can't do,
Yeah.
but we don't focus on what we can do.
Right.
And you know, if we've got that energy to just to say, okay, I need help. I'm at a low point. What can I do to get help? And being able to and not have that stigma and that thought process is people's going to either laugh at me, make fun of me. I
Yeah.
mean, I work with veterans and I've got a number of veterans friends, and the banter, obviously I can't repeat some of the banter that they come up with, but they have a different mindset
Yeah.
as to Joe Bloggs in the office.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So you're right, and it's being able to communicate is the key thing for me. Communication isn't just about having a conversation like you and I are having. It's about what you say to yourself. You know,
Yes.
you can talk yourself out of things. You can talk
Uh,
yourself out of going for a job. You can talk
yeah.
yourself out of going for getting some mental health of you. So it's key, isn't it? The
Oh,
communication in ourselves.
absolutely. It's so important. And we all communicate in different ways because we're all different people.
Mm,
And so it's not one solution fits all. And as you quite rightly said, Darren, it's really what's the best thing that how what suits you best, and let's move with that, and work towards actually having that conversation the way that you want it. Um,
mm,
some people want a direct conversation. Some people don't want to talk about that. We'll talk about something else, and then eventually the conversation will get round to where you're feeling. And again, it's like I said originally. You've always got to ensure that there's a story behind every individual that you speak to, every individual. And you don't know the backdrop of it at all in any shape or form when you meet somebody.
no.
So allow those people to breathe. Allow those people to actually expand upon their story, and you'll start to hear all of that. But again, you just need to be patient. And when you have those patience, you'll find that that starts to come out. And active listening is an art form.
Yeah.
You know, and again, God bless my mother. She used to say, God gave you two ears and one mouth to listen twice as much and speak half as less. She's absolutely right. You've got to keep your gob shut.
Yeah.
Keep your gob shut and listen to what that person has to say. And you'd be absolutely amazed by what comes out. Um, People love to tell their story if you give them the opportunity to do it. And also you have to create the right environment for that to happen in as well.
Oh, absolutely. There's that trust element, isn't there, to be able to
Yeah,
open
of
up.
course it is. Yeah.
And that's what I enjoy about coaching in a sense, because as a true coach, it is about shutting up, listening to that person. You know, if anybody wants to, Time to Talk is a great book about keeping quiet and giving people that chance of, and even when they stop to speak,
Yeah.
still don't interrupt. Because they'll bring out more. They're going, is he listening?
Yeah.
I'll test him,
Yeah.
see if he says
Yeah.
saying something else, and or even saying what else, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Bringing
Yeah.
that out on people is absolutely key, because you can't fix some, well, you can't always fix somebody, but you can't
No.
help them if you haven't got the full story, like you say, and that's key. Going forward, because I know we can go on forever and a day with it, and I just love speaking to you, mate, to be honest with you. You're championing disability rights of children,
Yeah. Yes.
and what's that about?
Um, I work with some incredible people, and um, the rights of people with disabilities are just shocking in this country. They are treated like third-rate citizens, and in a developed nation that we live in, we are the fifth richest economy in the world by GDP, um, and we haven't got a care system that actually look after our people with disabilities, and we don't give them the dignity, and we don't give them the options available to them to actually develop as people within our society.
Mm.
So I work with an amazing lady, and I work with a charity called Include Me Too. And Parmi Dima is just she's an inspiration to me. Um, and she's been championing along with myself, basically putting disabled people's rights at the top of the agenda at governmental level around the world for the last 10 to 15 years. So I gave a talk at the United Nations in New York on disability rights a few years back, which I was extremely proud of. I was invited to the
Mm.
United Nations and spoke to the General Assembly about disability rights around the world, because obviously I see disability rights in developing parts of Africa which are just non-existent.
Yeah.
You know, people don't even have access to a wheelchair, um, never mind anything else. So they are really third-rate citizens that are just left on the dustbin pile, and just left and forgotten about. And and those people can actually, and I know 'cause I've got a lot of people who are disabled in many ways, contribute to society in such an incredible way you would not believe it. I mean, the one person that comes to mind when everybody thinks about disability and a person that's really sort of changed the world for the better is Stephen Hawking,
Mm. Mm.
uh, the late great Stephen Hawking. Look at the disability and the actual disease that he had, but he kept on going and contributing to our amazing world in science that
Mm.
without his contribution, we wouldn't really sort of be where we are today. So, but I know a lot of people who have got disabilities that actually are world class in everything that they do. Um, and I spend a lot of time with visually impaired people in particular, and what they have achieved and what they continue to achieve is just remarkable. Um, One of our claims to fame is that I taught 50 blind people how to play ukulele um, very successfully, and they did their own particular performance concert. And when they got to a proficiency whereby they could play on their own,
Brilliant.
um, and it's incredible. I brought in an amazing ukulele band to actually help me when we were teaching the kids how to actually learn ukulele, which was really quite troubling to start with, because of course, with everybody in mind, telling them where the chord of C was quite difficult. When we got round 50 pupils, everybody had forgotten where to put their finger. So I stole a great idea. I was looking at one of the kids one day who was reading a story via the Braille system, and I thought, I wonder if we could do Braille for music. And I inquired, and nobody had actually done Braille for music. So I went out and invented Braille chord cards for the ukulele,
Wow.
which which we actually got made up and printed, and then we got copyrighted and trademarked. And now it's now used universally with all visually impaired people around the world of how to actually play musical instruments using chord cards in Braille.
Fantastic. That is
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, yeah,
Because it's simple little things like that that,
yeah,
it does make a difference for someone.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does. It's uh, and for them to play musical instruments proficiently and to play as a group in front of an audience and to hear that appreciation. I mean, you know, they just went from there to there. I mean, it was just wonderful to watch. And yeah, they've gone on to play other instruments now, whereby they thought they could never do that because they thought their impairment was an actual stopper towards them doing that. So yeah, it's, you know, anything is possible when you put your mind to it. And it's again, you know, you can't do these things on your own. It's actually when you surround yourself with incredible people, magic happens.
Mm.
Magic happens. You know, I didn't solo row the ocean on my own. You know, I had a team of 20, 30 people behind me that actually got me to the start line and then got me across the ocean safely, and then basically supported all of the events that we did within that campaign. Like we pulled the boat for 300 miles at RAF Lyneham to actually highlight the number of child suicides that were in the United Kingdom each year. And then we did an amazing tour of the United Kingdom with the boat as well, talking about the boat itself, but also talking about the mural that we had wrapped around the boat, which had 10,000 inputs from high school children around the United Kingdom and what hope meant to them. So a huge collaboration of people and people coming together actually makes things the success they usually are.
Yeah.
You can't do things on your own. Surround yourself with incredible people and magic starts to happen.
Just out of interest, did the audience know that the group was blind by any
Yes.
chance? They
Oh yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah.
It'd have been good for him
oh
to
yeah.
see after.
They were introduced as the first blind ukulele orchestra in the world.
Wow. It'd have been. I could just imagine their faces when, if they
Yeah,
didn't know,
yeah. And then
listening
it's
to him,
people are blind.
and then tell it. Oh, by the way, this is the blind. What?
Yeah,
Again,
it's bonkers.
I
Yeah.
was listening with you saying about doing the rowing solo. One thing that popped into my head then was Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about on his show,
Yes.
when people say to him, you know, you've done so well for yourself. How have you managed to get yourself? And he always says, I didn't do it on my own. You know, the person that he was generally give him the idea about bodybuilding, the
Uh-huh.
person who supported him by who owned Gold Gym,
Yeah.
bringing him in and having his thing,
Yeah.
giving him the opportunity. He said, I've not done it on my own.
No.
I've done it with the help of somebody else. And I think that's the key point is when it comes to mental health, you can't, as much as you try, and I know men in particular, we are such a pain in the neck
Yeah.
that not asking for that help. I hold my hands up myself. It is about asking, isn't it? Getting that support to be able
It
to,
is.
like you said with your son, you
Uh-huh.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of masculine traits that basically are, sort of go back in history, whereby it's hunter gatherer and then nurturer. So the female was always the nurturer, the male was always the hunter gatherer. So you really had to be strong, and you had to just man up and just get on with it. And if something went wrong, well, that's just the way it was, and you never spoke about it. And that's the way it was. So in that age, in that era, um, that's what you needed to do to survive. But as we progressed as a society and as males and females, we all have nurturing instincts within us. We all have masculine instincts within us as well. But we've now started to understand through education that it's okay to talk about how you feel, about inside your head and your heart, and it's not an area of weakness to actually talk about why you can't do things. I mean, if you look at the Olympian that's actually she didn't want to actually do the high bars because she got the twisties, Simone Biles. She's been ridiculed online with regards to saying that she's not strong enough. How dare she actually back out because of her mental wellness wasn't the right place, because every time she got onto the bars, she actually started visualizing actually she was going to fall off and have the twisties and so on and so forth. Um, but my goodness, what an amazing role model for young women around the world, and also for men around the world as
Yeah.
well. For her actually saying, "I'm not going to do this because it's not right for me,"
Yeah.
even though it is the greatest show on earth, the Olympic Games. She actually took the courage to say, "I'm not doing this." And you're seeing those acts of courages coming out more and more often now. And you see it with celebrity, you see it with other people where saying that I'm going to have to take a time away. I always remember when I was in the corporate sector, my CEO, a colossus of a man, um, who I looked up to tremendously, basically said, "I'm taking a year out of corporate banking." He ran a multi-trillion pound organization. He said, "I've got to take a year off to reassess where I am, because basically if I don't think really I'll be here in the next 6 months." And he top CEO of a Fortune 500 company, basically took the decision to move away from the business for a year and then basically get himself sorted out and then come back in a better place. And I was absolutely thrilled with the reaction of the business. The business supported that man through thick and thin. And I always remember another story as well, that when I was pulling my boat for 30 days and 300 miles at MOD Lynham, I was absolutely blown away by the commander colonel on the base. And he said, "Thank you for what you're doing. The men are absolutely thrilled with what you're doing," because they all start to talk about how they feel inside their heads and hearts. And he said, "12 months ago, I had to stand up in front of all of my troops and tell them that I had to take a step back for 6 months because my mental health was shot." Now, for one of the most senior men in the army to actually get up in front of his men and tell them that story, that he wasn't strong enough mentally, was a huge act of bravery, but also broke the stigma of what mental health is all about. It's all about, we all have it, and we need help, and we need help, and we need to talk about it and not go through the pain barrier. Because one of the issues that the armed services have is that they have a significantly high suicide rate within the armed forces, and also their families suffer from tremendous health issues, because mental health issues, because when their spouses go away, their partners go away on active duty, they go away for weeks and weeks on end with no communication because we're on special ops. And that puts the kids and the families under really, really severe mental pressure. So our campaign touched an awful lot of hearts and minds within the army and also the Air Force during that our campaign. And we did many talks in many of the bases to all the families and all of the armed service personnel. And we just had these open and wonderful conversations about how we could actually talk about it. It's not a solution, but how we could actually start talking about how we feel, which is really the first step to actually getting help.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. It was Les that mentioned it to me some time ago. The children, how they're affected when someone's in the armed forces,
Yeah,
just going from place to place to place. I
yeah,
did a podcast this morning with somebody who was a forces child, and
yeah,
she was saying she had to be a people pleaser because you
yeah.
had to build those relationships.
Uh-huh.
And it's difficult for children who are in the forces, whose parents are in the forces,
Yeah,
because you're going to different places and there's constant change. You can't settle. Your mind's all, where are we going next? Am I going to see my parents again because they've gone out on tour of duty? So there's all that impact on the child itself,
absolutely.
is massive as well.
Oh, unquestionably, unquestionably. I mean, children like routine.
Yeah,
From the get-go, as soon as they come out the womb, they like routine, and they like basically stability, and they like their own group of friends that
yeah,
they grow up with collectively together, their
yeah,
pals. And you're right, when they go from base to base, and that system is fragmented, it means that they have to start all over again. And mentally, it's very, very challenging. Not to have daddy or mummy there because they're on active service, and they don't understand where mummy and daddy have gone, and they may not come back because of where they're going into, is just frightening for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely frightening. Particularly when mummy and daddy can't speak to them on the of a night time because they're on active service. And one of the particular services suffers more than any, and that's the submariners.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when a submariner goes underneath the water in one of our Poseidon submarines and doesn't service back for 6 months, they don't hear anything at all from them, not a jot. And how those families, the coping mechanisms are now, thankfully, the Royal Navy and the Air Force and the Army now have great support from a mental health point of view that they've never had before. It's amazing to see what's happened in a very, very short period of time, and how families are coming together with mental health support groups within the armed services is just remarkable.
Yeah.
So it's incredible through a simple conversation about this is how I feel, lots of change can happen.
Yeah. I'm talking concept. We've talked a hell of a lot so far, and we still haven't touched really much on Kenya.
No,
So, but it's fantastic. So, what I want to know is, what was it about Kenya? I mean, I know you work in Nepal and other
yeah,
places around the world. What was it about Kenya
no.
that draws you in there? I mean, you've done so much work, haven't you, in
I have,
Kenya?
yeah. I've been there for 15 years. I got involved in Kenya through an amazing organization called the Mamusi Foundation 15 years ago now. And one of my friends asked me to go out and do some volunteering. And I've always been intrigued about volunteering in Africa. So I thought, well, yeah, I've got a couple of weeks on my hands. I'll go and give it a crack. And I went out and I fell in love with the nation. And more importantly, I fell in love with the people.
Mm.
Um, they are just some of the most beautiful individuals and souls I've ever had the honor of meeting. Um, and you may have actually experienced this yourself, but these people have no material wealth whatsoever, zero, no. But they have huge emotional wealth, absolute bucket loads of love and care, than any other nation that I've seen, any other people that I've seen. And when I went there, I was absolutely consumed with love and consumed with care. And they didn't want anything off me. They weren't looking for any handouts or anything of that nature. They just wanted me to talk to them and listen to their stories and hear about their amazing culture. And I was blown away, in particular, by the Maasai. That's the Maasai tribe where I focus. And the Maasai tribe is the Maasai people are the greatest survivalists on our planet. They've survived for millennia on next to nothing in the outback, and they're nomadic. They basically move from place to place, and they don't need an awful lot of stuff to actually survive because they know how to survive, and they're in one with the land, so they actually know how to actually live in harmony with animals, plants, and the land itself. And to actually witness that firsthand and see it, because I immersed myself in the culture and I really, really wanted to get into really what it was like to be a Maasai in 2 weeks that I was there. And I came back and I just thought, wow, these people are just incredible. How lucky am I to have actually had 2 weeks with this culture that really is the envy to me. I mean, I came home and thought, I'm not the lucky one living in a developed world.
Mm.
They're the lucky people with regards to what they've achieved and what they have. They have complete fulfillment with their land and with their people, with their soul, and religion plays a big part in it all as well, and with their religion. And I was very envious of that. I was thinking, goodness me, if we could just take a cupful of that and bring it here into the United Kingdom and learn some of the Maasai ways, our culture would be a far better place to be. And so, they share everything. If somebody is basically is hungry, they'll invite you into their house and feed you, even if you haven't got anything to give them.
Mm.
They know how to actually extract the best of the land, but also leave the land in great condition. So they are great eco-friendly warriors. And the United Nations and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals should be wrapped around the tribes like the Maasai, because they know exactly how to actually look after and nurture the resources of the world for future generations in an amazing way. So they live in harmony with everything. So when I came home and reflected on this incredible experience, I thought there's much more I can do here. And I went back and thought, right, okay, what we can do with these incredible people is give them the tools to develop themselves to get to the next level of where they want to be, because they want their children to be educated. And that's the one thing that was missing. They couldn't provide their children with an education, and they lived in the remote parts of Kenya. And if you go into the major cities within Kenya, there are schools that are private schools that you have to pay for, because education within Kenya has to be paid for. It's not like here with our taxes, where we actually pay through our taxes for our kids to go to state schools. There, everyone has to have a private education. Um, there are state schools, but you have to pay for those as well to go to them. So it's very expensive to actually get your child educated. So therefore, when you've got no money, you can't educate your child, and that's a travesty. Now, although the Kenyan government is progressing very, very quickly, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, with regards to helping its people get education, and they know that education is the solution to actually prosperity within the nation itself. Um, Charities such as the Mamusi Foundation and charities that I actually operate in Kenya now have now actually given them the boost. They would just turbocharge where they're going to get to. Somebody once said to me, look, if you didn't go, would they get there eventually? Well, of course they would. Yes, is the answer, because they're naturally inquisitive. They're naturally intelligent to actually understand what they need to do. But what we do is we actually oil those wheels to get the actual cogs moving a lot quicker, to give children the education that they need now, not sort of 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So I came back and I thought, I love what Mamusi are doing, but I think, working slightly differently. I'm a bit of an entrepreneur. I I am very much into social enterprise, whereby, if you teach somebody how to do it and you give them the tools to do it, they'll actually manufacture or make or create that service on their own without me actually showing them and doing it, and basically them just working for me. So sitting on the board of the School for Social Entrepreneurs in the UK, I used some of that knowledge and the power to actually put together a charity with an incredible woman in the United States, in San Francisco, Maria Terada. We got together and said, listen, why don't we build schools, but let's build them sustainably, but also build in healthcare at the same time. And she said, yeah, let's do that. So the She Foundation was founded. So sustainable health and education. And we've just finished I think it's the fifth, sixth school now. I think it is now. Keep losing track. And this school has actually taken a long, long time to build because of COVID and supply chain issues, etc. But we've got it finished. It's incredible. We're very proud of this school, because we actually got it. We got it designed by the Maasai community, so it doesn't look like a school. It looks very, very different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's incredible when you see it. I'll send you some photographs.
Please.
And it was built. We sat down with the community and said, what type of school would you like within your community if we had a blank sheet of paper? And we put the Maasai heritage into the school and the Maasai ways of building into it, whereby we could make it sustainable, and we could gather water from the roofs, etc., etc., etc. And we came up with this incredible design with an amazing architect in Italy, Fabio. And we sat down and we designed this just amazing school using sustainable materials, which has now taken 10 years to build. But which I'm going out next year to actually sort of have a look at what we've achieved and the next phase of the school as well, which is incredible.
And are you going to go out? It's a shame you're not going out to cut the ribbon to open it up.
Yeah, we used to do that, but we basically sort of we're not into ribbon cutting and photographs and things of that nature. We've gone past that now, and when we go out and see it, I mean, the school's actually open now, which is brilliant, because we just wanted to get it running as quickly as possible. So 250 children that were actually basically sort of working on the land and fetching water every day. are now actually getting an education through the Kenyan curriculum for the first time ever. 250 young children are in an incredible classroom whereby they used to be taught underneath a tree. And that's how the story actually started. When we went to Kenya, looking to actually about for our next project, we went to this amazing part of Kenya, Shompole, and we noticed these children were actually being reading books underneath a tree for shade, and we found out that that was their classroom. It's called the School Under the Tree, and that's where the school's been built. And the tree still remains in the middle of the actual compound.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, and now looking to take it to the next phase, which is to introduce an incredible solar system, which will produce power for the school itself, power a water pump, power to the social enterprises that we've built around the actual school itself as well, power the health centre, and also provide power for the community as well.
Because you were part, and I've got it on my notes. You've you were part of that creation of a water system
Yeah.
within the Maasai, wasn't it? And Mamusi. So it is those key elements, isn't it? And I know what you're saying about the education, because obviously working with the Fleischer Foundation is about supporting and helping kids get an education.
Uh-huh.
But it's the incredible work you've done, mate. Is well, I'd have a hat and take it off. I'd be. It's incredible. The money you've raised. We're talking. If people haven't seen your website, over 42 million pounds in charitable donations and funding,
Mhm.
it is absolutely incredible. The work you're continuing to do. You know, I'm just trying to think, with your wife, your poor wife, do you have any time together? What do
Well,
you?
Sharon and I do have some time together. I mean, sometimes she's great actually from the point of view that Sharon does tell me, stop giving your money away, and spend it on yourself for once, and spend it on me, which is fair. How you done She,
I thought she was in the background.
she's telling me she's telling me off. So no, yeah, I mean, she's quite right. I'll say it. She's quite remarkable, to be fair. Um, so yeah, but yeah, maybe I'll do that in the future. But I'm starting to think about that as we speak at the moment. But
I like your strategy as well. People and planet.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it's the first element of that was profit, people, planet, and people have always said to me, sort of, how do you put what order do you put those in? And basically, you put people first
Mm,
because you can't really do anything without people, but you have to make money to actually save the planet.
mm.
So it's people, profit, planet. That's the order I put in. A lot of people put it profit, people, planet. But you can't make money without great people.
Yeah, yeah.
So you surround yourself with people, you help that charity make money. Charities are businesses that have to actually be sustainable and make money on a regular basis. People have livelihoods. You have to look after yourself, you have to look after your family, you have to look after your employees. But once you've actually done that, once you've got the great people around you, you can then start to expand your business. And some of the greatest philanthropists of our time never gave a cent or a penny away of their fortune until they made billions.
Mm.
So, you look at Bill Gates, you look at Mark Zuckerberg, you look at, Sir Warren Buffett, you look at all of the great philanthropists of modern times. They didn't give any money away when they were actually building their empires. They gave it at the very, very end.
Mm. What's
So,
next for Africa then?
well, we're busy doing phase two on our school. So we've got to get solar in, and then we've got to build our next piece of our school. Um, the great news is that from an employment point of view, I work with an incredible guy called Adrian Brewer, and Adrian and I have been working together for, gosh, it seems like forever. And he came up with a great idea when he was at a caravan site about 10 years ago. He actually saw somebody pull water to their caravan through a roller barrel.
Okay.
And he said, and he came out to Kenya with me one time, and he said, why does everybody have to basically carry water on the top of their heads in canisters? Even the children, they have to walk for miles and carry this water on top of their heads. Why don't we just use a caravan roller barrel? And even a 3-year-old can pull it, and it takes half the time, and it doesn't damage your health. So I said, what a great idea. So fast forward to where we are now, and he's now got a factory in Kenya producing roller barrels for people who live in poverty. And we've now distributed them to all of our tribes. And we're now in the process of renewing them because obviously they wear out after a while. But that's reduced the time to go into the local water hole by 50%.
Wow.
And it means that children don't have to go and gather water. They can actually have their education, because a lot of the children used to traditionally work before they were educated. So they used to go and do all the chores. So they used to go out and gather water in the morning, gather water in the evening, look after the livestock. Now we've taken the water scenario out of the way. They can actually educate themselves at the night time. So every one of our child has a solar lamp. So of a night time, when they're in their hut, in their home, they can actually put their solar lamp on and they can actually read.
Excellent. That's
So,
fantastic.
so we're going to continue doing that. Our social enterprises are doing extremely well. We have soap factories in Kenya that make soap in the local communities. We learned how to do that over here in the United Kingdom, and then we brought the ingredients out to Kenya and showed locals how to make soap. That was liquid soap and bar soap. So we make that very successfully. I invested in a running shoe company, the first Kenyan running shoe in the world. I met an incredible guy at Kenyatta Airport, because I'm a keen runner. And I basically said, can't get my hands on a Kenyan running shoe anyway. He said, we're going to be making one. If you want to come and invest with us, we can actually do this together. So that's what I did. And if you fast forward to where we are now, if you go to endersportswear.com, you'll see some magnificent running shoes that are handmade in Kenya, because Kenya is the home of long distance running. And now those shoes are being exported across the world.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great little story.
Well, it's obviously there's so much more we could talk about, and I think we've gone over an hour now, and I'm, like I say, I'm conscious of your time. I just want to finish up with a massive thank you for you being here and sharing your stories and your insights as well. And I just want to give you those 5 minutes of fame now to
Oh,
plug yourself, plug whatever you need. You're going forward, all these different charities and enterprises that you're doing, and any words of wisdom,
oh,
that you could share.
yeah. Well, what do I need? Where do I start? Right. So, um, I need more collaboration. I need more people coming to support the work that we do, and equally, I need to help them as well. So it's a two-way street. So, if you're out there and you've got a great idea and you want to bring it to fruition, if you have a charitable cause or you have a community interest company and you need some direction, particularly sort of from a financial point of view, from a fundraising point of view, structural, from a governance point of view, reach out to me, talk to me. I'll always give you my time for free. I don't expect anything in return apart from what you're doing within your organization. With regards to sort of words of wisdom, yeah, I mean, just be kind. It's as simple as that. Just be kind. It's an amazing gift to be. If you can be kind to others, it's incredible what will happen. Just be nice. Sometimes it's really difficult to do that, but be kind and give of yourself if you possibly can. And it's not all about materialistic things. It's all about give your time if you can, give your ear to listen. And, if you start doing things like that, the little acts of kindness, which you may have heard from other people, it's the little acts of general kindness that really, really make a difference in the world. And everybody can. Some people think, oh, I can't make a difference. You can. Just be kind and just do those little acts of kindness every day.
Fantastic. Bernie, thank you so much, mate. Great to see you again. And thank you for your time again. And hopefully everybody, you can have a look in the bio and the text. If you want to reach out to Bernie, he'll be there. You can also get him at berniehollywood.com, if I'm
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my website.
Have a
Yeah,
look at his website and you'll see the fantastic work that he's done.
yeah,
Bernie, thank you. And obviously I'll be out in Kenya myself very soon.
yeah,
And hopefully we'll meet up when you're back over next year.
absolutely. That'd be amazing. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Good day, everybody. See you next time. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.